Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. This evening, we've seen a news broadcast here on TASS, Russian news agency out of Moscow, that is claiming that Moscow is alarmed by the worsening situation on the Lebanon-Israeli border there. And the reason, of course, they're worried about this is because recently Israel did an assassination strike on Samir Kuntar, an Arabic murderer, and quite frankly, to put it bluntly, is exactly what he is. He was actually in Israeli prison before a swap a few years back between Hezbollah and Israel, who swapped his release for Israelis' release there. But the man had murdered a 4-year-old little girl with the butt of a rifle there. He was captured by the Israelis. He was put in prison, only to be released in a prisoner exchange after serving about 30 years of his term there. Anyway, Russia is speaking about this as well. There were some reports the other day that speculated that Russia had to have known that Israel was in the Damascus airspace when it fired the missiles, with the S-400 already being enacted in Syria. But this is what Russia is saying about this as well. Russia urges Lebanon and Israel to exercise patience in connection with the worsening of the situation on the border between the two countries, the Russian Foreign Ministry said on Monday. Over the past few days, we have been witnessing an escalation of tension on the border between Israel and Lebanon. It said, according to the media reports, several rockets were fired from the Lebanese territory on December the 20th, which the Israeli army retaliated with artillery fire. Of course, there were no casualties in that response there. But it goes on to say here, though, that according to reports, the Popular Front, the Liberation Palestinian General Command, has claimed responsibility for the shelling of Israel, accusing it of the airstrikes on Jermallah near Damascus a day before, the ministry said. Moscow sees the developments with major concern. The foreign ministry said the worsening of the situation included in the area of the Lebanese-Israeli border is a fraught with further degradation of the situation in the Middle East on the whole, the ministry noted. With this in view, we urge all parties involved in the confrontation to demonstrate restraint. But the thing is restraint is exactly the opposite of what Nasrallah, the head of the Hezbollah movement in Lebanon, is promising. He promises and he vows to retaliate for the death of Kuntar, the assassination of this leader that he helped gain the release of from the Israeli prison. Says here in the article here, Israeli planes fired. Apologize there. But he goes on to say the Israeli planes fired Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah on Monday evening blamed Israel for the assassination of Samir Kuntar, a Lebanese militant that was killed in Damascus. He says, I have no doubt that Israel is responsible for the assassination of Kuntar. Nasrallah said Israeli plane fired precision-guided missiles on a multi-story apartment building. Samir is one of us and a commander of our resistance, and it's our right to retaliate for his assassination in the place, time, and way we see appropriate. We will exercise this right, God willing, he said. The speech came after Kuntar was laid to rest in Beirut. The Hezbollah chief said it was irrelevant if the Israeli jets entered Syrian airspace or if the missiles were fired from Israeli territory, said Nasrallah. It is inconsequential. Technical matter. What's important is that Israel is behind the assassination. Nasrallah also rejected several media reports suggesting that the Syrian opposition fighters were responsible for the attack that led to Kuntar's death. Thus far as I'm aware of, Israel still has not actually acknowledged this attack either. Another article that's on Haaretz, it says when Nasrallah promises revenge, Israel better take his word. Now, we haven't gone into this story here yet, but one thing that we have seen ourselves is during the assassination that Israel did with the Iranian general and another one of Hezbollah's top commanders there in Syria that happened about a year ago. There again, Nasrallah promised revenge, and he did take revenge using an anti-tank weapon on the northern border of Israel, killing several Israelis, wounding quite a few of them as well. And very devastating for Israel to take that type of blunt force back. Of course, rockets have been fired back and forth. We have been watching the situation now since the Intifada began, looking to see what would actually cause what would be the catalyst to cause Hezbollah to invade Israel on its northern border. But of course, Nasrallah has also made the statement before he does not want to fight two wars at one time. He is now currently helping Syria's President Bashar al-Assad in combating ISIS forces in that region. But yet, nonetheless, as long as Vladimir Putin is there helping Syria, it may free him up to back out of that fight there to engage with Israel. And that's something that we expect that may very well happen in the very coming months. Hezbollah has been looking for quite some time an excuse to attack Israel on its northern border. And even, we know that the Defense Minister Yolan of Israel has stated that if they did attack on the northern border, that they would actually gain the Golan. He said they would end up having it for about 2 days before Israel could reclaim it. Now that's a very serious concern to begin with, that they could even capture the Golan. If they capture the Golan, we may find out that Syria fights to keep it at that point there. Because remember, Nasrallah is fighting for Syria right now to take out ISIS itself, working along with Iranians and the Russians as well there. So we can only imagine what might happen next there. Anyway, in this article here, it says Hezbollah's retaliation for Samir Kuntar's death will likely not be of a scope that could spark a new war, but past experience shows the group takes question of honor and image quite seriously in its balance of terror with Israel. He states here, the Israeli Defense Establishment waited Monday almost the entire day for the speech of Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah since the aerial attack attributed to Israel in which the arch-terrorist Samir Kuntar was killed near Damascus. The media affiliated with Hezbollah have published announcements of the morning and symphony. Nasrallah, who started to speak Monday evening at the scheduled time, made do with general statement about the Druze terrorist being one of us, and made a promise to extract revenge for his death at a time and a place Hezbollah chooses. It's the same rhetoric that he used last time, and of course he did deliver on that rhetoric as we mentioned just a moment ago. One other concern as well, Al Jazeera is reporting about 6 U.S. soldiers killed in Afghanistan as the Taliban gains strength once again. It was actually a suicide bomber on a motorbike that rammed into a joint NATO-Afghan patrol Monday, killing 6 American service members in the deadliest attack on the international forces in the country since August. 2 U.S. troops and Afghans were wounded. The attacks happened as Taliban fighters overran a strategic district of the southern Helmand province, the scene of some of the deadliest fighting between the Taliban and international combat forces prior to the 2014 withdrawal. Adding weight to the Pentagon's prediction that the insurgency is gaining strength. Definitely so. Very sad situation going on in and around the Middle East and around the world as well. We also know that we caught a little bit of, before coming on the air this evening, information of a young woman who rammed into a group of people, injuring some 60 people, killing one in Las Vegas, California, all the while screaming Allah Akbar, I guess with her windows down, screaming Allah Akbar as she rammed these people over, injuring so many of them there. So terrorism is now on the rise in the United States as well. What will happen next? It is a holiday season, so I guess this would pay to be very vigilant this time of year. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom.